most about the Guard is that we can just continue to fly as line pilots until we're 55 years old, an opportunity you usually don't have in the active duty. We enjoy flying, obviously, more than anything in our career, and that's why we joined the Guard.
Affection and enthusiasm for flying the Warthog makes the rigorous training seem less demanding than it is. Hog pilots can ill afford to be unprepared for the challenging missions the A-10 must perform, and keeping the unit ready is a full-time occupation.
We train continuously, not just on weekends. We run a flying operation here 4 to 5 days a week, and with the luxury of an airline schedule, many of our pilots can come in and fly several times a week if they wish, and we can maintain the same level of proficiency.
In the past 2 years, many of these Maryland Guardsmen have twice left their families and full-time jobs to assist NATO forces in Bosnia. Despite the serious nature of their service, these Hog pilots feel their affection for the Warthog helps them keep things in perspective.
I think we're a little bit more casual and not as threatened about our ego per se, but it's a single-seat airplane, so you get to fly it by yourself. You don't have to talk to anybody else about what you're doing. We always fly in 2 or 4 aircraft, and we train routinely at low altitude, 500 feet, or you can go lower in certain areas. And that, you know, moving around at 300 knots, that's a lot of fun.
Flying the Hog has got to be as fun as any fighter to fly. It's single seat. It's a VFR mission, which means you don't have to fly on predetermined routes. You can navigate with much more freedom, and it's just a great deal of fun.
I think it's the most enjoyable type of tactical flying I could ever hope to do.
In January 1973, the Fairchild Republic Corporation unveiled the airplane the Air Force and the Army desperately wanted, the A-10 Thunderbolt II. It was not a pretty sight, but it was exactly what the military needed. The conflict in Vietnam had painfully illustrated the need for a new aircraft to handle the difficult task of close air support, a role the A-10 was methodically designed to perform. This task is one of the most difficult in all of aviation. The Warthog must loiter around the battlefield while providing support for ground forces and destroying enemy tanks, vehicles, and artillery. And this job must be performed at low altitudes under heavy enemy fire.
That's why this airplane is so ugly. This airplane is optimized to perform the close air support mission. It's designed to fly slower than most. Slower because it's necessary to keep the good guys and the bad guys in sight if you're going to deliver ordnance in close proximity to those good guys.
The A-10 evolved from lessons learned in Vietnam, but it was in reality designed to provide close air support in Europe. The A-10, with its tank-killing ability, stood as an integral part of NATO's strategy to match the threat of Soviet tanks, which stood poised to storm across Germany. 40 years earlier, the Germans had unleashed upon the world the power of close air support. By the summer of 1939, Germany's resurrection into a military power was complete. The Nazi regime combined a huge, highly mechanized army with a devastating fleet of 4,000 all-metal aircraft. Hitler's Air Force, the Luftwaffe, pushed the envelope of war into a terrifying new era. The strategy behind the design of the Luftwaffe was close air-to-ground support, a strategy unveiled with terrifying precision during the Nazis' invasion of Poland. In a pattern destined to be repeated throughout Europe, the Luftwaffe soared ahead of Hitler's highly mechanized army and pounded enemy troops, artillery, and aircraft. Within 10 months, Europe had collapsed into the iron fist of the Nazis, a testament to the brutal effectiveness of their military machine. In the wake of the German victories and the emerging threat from Japan, American airplane manufacturers began designing and manufacturing airplanes at an extraordinary rate. Of all the American fighters from World War II, one simply stands alone: Republic's P-47 Thunderbolt. More than 15,600 P-47s were manufactured, more than any other Allied fighter from World War II. Nicknamed the Jug, the Thunderbolt was the largest of all the Allied single-engine fighters and weighed an astonishing 8 tons. Armed with 850 caliber machine guns, the Thunderbolt presented a formidable force. Driven by a 13-foot propeller and a 2,300 horsepower Pratt & Whitney engine, the P-47 was the fastest U.S. fighter and could reach speeds of 428 miles per hour. With a range of more than 1,000 miles and a cruising speed of 350 miles per hour, the P-47 starred throughout the war as an invaluable escort for bombers and as an integral support airplane for Allied ground forces. Along with planes like the North American P-51 Mustang, the P-47 provided vital Allied support for the Normandy invasion, repelling German troops and weaponry which defended the shores of France. Coordination of troop movements in sync with aerial support was crucial to the success of the Normandy invasion. On D-Day alone, more than 14,000 sorties were flown by the Allies in preparation and support of the initial invasion. The Allies learned the lesson of close air support quickly, and the legendary P-47 Thunderbolt helped bring the Allies victory in Europe and in the Pacific. After World War II, and in the wake of the tremendous success of the original Thunderbolt, the Republic Corporation began developing the lineage of jet airplanes which led to the Warthog. Republic's first F-84 Thunderjets were straight-wing jet airplanes which were armed with 6.50 caliber machine guns, had a range of nearly 1,500 miles, and a maximum speed of 620 miles per hour. The first prototype flew in early 1946. These F-84s were the original Hogs, nicknamed as such because on hot days, the airplane would often struggle to get off the ground and would sometimes tip over, leaving their stout noses rooted in the mud. Thus, the first Hog was born. All told, more than 3,300 of the original Hogs were built, serving throughout the 1950s and into the 60s. Republic continually upgraded the Hog, and in 1952, they produced a swept-wing version, known as the F-84F Thunderstreak. The legacy of the Hogs continued when pilots christened the Super Hog. The Super Hog, capable of a speed of 685 miles per hour and a range of 1,650 miles, soon developed into an integral member of the U.S. Air Force. It could carry a variety of rockets and bombs, and Republic built more than 2,700 Super Hogs. The F-105 Thunder Chief, introduced in 1956, demonstrated that Republic was not going to rest easy after the success of the F-84, and it did not take long